Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahawashi, Bahasham, Barakahak Wadash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahawashi. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone who rule and teach well. And peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure unto the end. This is the Brother Ra'aya coming at you with another lesson. And in this lesson, I'll be profiling a couple of minutes of this video from Integrative Preparedness's YouTube channel titled Warning, Racial Hatred Rising. And this Edomite in this clip is just going to be going into how he's hearing concerning information about how so-called blacks hate so-called whites, that so-called whites should expect racial violence to break out. In a previous video he was talking about that whole South Africa thing with Trump. And I believe South Africa's president's name is Cyril Ramaphosa, which that was all, propaganda when you really look into it. But regardless, there will be, racial hatred rising in America, and there will be racial conflicts in America. And it's all a part of biblical prophecy. This is Matthew chapter 24. I'm going to start at verse 7. And if you're reading it in the Bible, it's in red letters. So it's Yahawashi, the Son of the Most High, whom the world ignorantly refers to as so-called Jesus speaking. And he was telling his disciples in the past of the end time signs that would be taking place before his second coming in the kingdom of heaven. But really, he was talking to his disciples today who truly are living in the last days, the last seconds of the last days. Romans chapter 15, everything written aforetime was written for our learning. But verse 7 reads, For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. And all these things are either in the process of taking place or taking place as we speak. And when we get that word ethnos when we get that word nation in the Strongs, it's G1484, ethnos, which sounds like what? Ethnic, ethnicity. But in the outline of biblical usage, it says a tribe, nation, people, group, a multitude of individuals of the same nature or genus, genealogy. So what? Nation rising against nation, races or tribes rising against races or tribes. And like I just said, it's all a part of biblical prophecy for these different nations out here to lock horns with each other, especially you Edomites, or so-called white people, and the Israelites, or the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. So it's no coincidence that, whenever you hear about talks of racial division or anything like that, who's it mainly between? So-called blacks, so-called whites, as we're going to see in this clip. But this is a fair use copyright disclaimer. I do not own any of the footage in this clip, nor do I stand to gain from it monetarily. It is simply for educational purposes. And I'm going to start it at the 3-minute and 23-second mark.
Now, what I wanted to talk about today was what I have come to believe is maybe the most, it may be the greatest threat to our country that most of us have not been thinking about. And it's kind of odd in my case, because racial hatred is nothing new to me. I've dealt with it many times in my life. I was a young boy, 14 years old, during the 1968 race riots in Kansas City, lived a block off of the dividing line between whites and blacks. I saw plenty there. I was a police officer in the city for a long time, worked a lot of the racially, volatile areas. So this is nothing.
So this Edomite has seen a lot of shit dealing with Jake in his lifetime.
New to me, but something has come up to make me realize that it's a lot more of a threat it is a clear and present danger that I think most of us aren't thinking about. I put up a video a couple of days ago, several days before the weekend, about, I forget, get ready for violence in the streets, something like that. And I'll tell you where that came from. A friend of mine, a black friend of mine, had told me, had kind of warned me. He said, there's a lot of hatred rising in the black community against
Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash. The sweet scent of a honeymoon in Fiji.
But that's funny that was an Old Spice ad, because, a lot of these Edomites out there, hey, they're feeling the heat and, preparing accordingly, while, for the majority of you Jakes, you're worried about smelling good and going out on the weekends.
Against whites. Now, I want to throw this in right here, too. I do not want this channel, the Preparedness Channel, Integrative Preparedness, to become a channel that focuses on this. So I am going to put more and more of this on the American Revival channel. I'm going to address it today because I want to talk about how to prepare for this, but there's a lot to be said about the growing racial problems in our country. I think that there's a lot that I've been keeping to myself, a lot of opinions, a lot of feelings that I haven't expressed on here, but it's time to express them. It's time to, it's time to talk about the elephant in the room, because that elephant has now become dangerous. And so I'm going to be talking about that on the American Revival channel. If you're not with us over there and you're interested in this, and I know a lot of you are, please come over and subscribe to the American Revival channel. I will also be adding other channels over there, recommending channels to you over there, and that's where we will do the majority of talking. It's about taking America back. It's about taking America back to the way that it ought to be. Okay, back when we were kids and it was a better place. Simple as that.
Better place for who?
Simple as that. So if you're not with us, the link is down below. American Revival, blah blah. So, but I do want to talk about it today. A friend of mine told me, like I said, that there was an increasing hatred and willingness for violence against whites. And I thought, well, he knows what he's talking about. I don't see it in my world, but then I don't live in that world anymore. And so I looked into it, and it turns out there are a lot of channels out there addressing this. And I want to say right up front that some of the channels who are addressing this best are black channels, and I want to recommend them to you here. If you want to see the extent of this, I watch several channels. Watch one called Modi Speaks, M-O-D as in dog, Y, Speaks. She's an African young lady who explains this stuff so well. Watch Brandon Tatum, Officer Tatum. Watch him. He addresses this. Watch the Hodge twins. He addresses this. So some of the people...
And, out of all of them, I've only seen, the Hodge twins, but I've heard, other Jakes talk about Officer Tatum. And, I looked up that Modi Speaks, and, I just listened to her talk for a couple of seconds, and she sounded like a Kenyan divester. But at least speaking for the Hodge twins, what those, so-called black channels have in common is they're Edomite apologists. So what? They're telling this Edomite exactly what he wants to hear. But regardless, hey, again, nation shall rise against nation. And as it said in verse 8, all these are the beginning of sorrows. You've got this tension building out here. You've got people on both sides, talking about the possibility of racial violence on the streets of America. But hey, that's just the times we are living in. It's no coincidence that damn near every facet of society in America is breaking down. But this is Ecclesiastes chapter 3. I'm going to start at verse 1. And the header reads, a time for everything. To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven. A time to be born, and a time to die. A time to plant, and a time to pluck up that which is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to get and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away, a time to rend and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. And if you just look at, average everyday life in America, is it a time of peace and love and building and coming together? Of course not. It's a time of hate, division, and breaking down, because Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai is getting ready to judge the United States of America and you people in it for all the wickedness you've been committing. Hence why you've got videos titled Racial Hatred Rising. Hey, a time to love and a time to hate.
People who have been addressing this rise in racial hatred are blacks. So see, what we're saying here is it's not a black-white problem. It is a racial hatred that has grown within certain elements of different racial groups. And we know that there are...
And it ultimately is an Edomite, Israelite problem. The hatred between our nations goes back to the womb. This is a spiritual thing. It's not based off of skin color or anything like that. Which is what and he's a so-called Christian, which is what a lot of you wacky-tacky Christians fail to realize. But this is Genesis chapter 25. I'm going to read verses 22 to 23. And the children struggled together within her. And this is talking about Jacob and Esau. Jacob being the forefather of you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, the children of Israel, and Esau being the forefather of you so-called white people, you Edomites, as babies struggling in the womb of Rebekah, Isaac's wife. And the children struggled together within her, and she said, If it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of Yahweh. And Yahweh said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people, 2 different nations with 2 different spirits on them, shall be separated from thy bowels, not coming together. Hence why you see throughout our history, even going back to the Grecian captivity, the Roman captivity, the transatlantic slave trade to the times of slavery, the Reconstruction, civil rights, all the way up until today, there has always been that division between our nations. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, speaking of you Israelites, because, even though our people are destroyed, we're still stronger than these Edomites. Look at athletics, intellectually we are, even though Esau does everything he can to, propagandize and pollute and destroy our people, and just look at through what all our people have gone through over these last couple of 100 years. We've been so beaten down and downtrodden that still these other nations want to be like us. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. Esau came out first, and Jacob came out holding his heel, symbolic for Israel ultimately taking down Esau. 2 Esdras chapter 6 verse 9. For Esau is the end of the world, or this age of the rulership of the heathens, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth the kingdom of heaven.
Are white groups that share this racism too, and this hatred, and that's the problem. But it presents a problem that the rest of us have to deal with. I finally saw that I was attacked a lot on the last video, and the hatred and the vitriol that turned up in the comment section made me understand what my friend was telling me. I couldn't believe the hatred. I couldn't believe. I took most of it off, but I'm going to read you a few. Okay.
Now listen carefully to what's being said in these few comments to his videos he's about to read.
This is going to give you just a small, like I said, I took the really bad stuff off, but this will give you an idea of what I'm talking about and why you need to be concerned about this and be prepared to protect yourself. Okay, here's one. And this is on mine about prepare for violence in the streets. Here's one. This, illegals are invading your country, but you want a race war against black people. I never said that. I said they want one against, some people have said that they need to kill whites, but you're the most evil and wicked people in human history. Okay, that's one. I left that up. I'm leaving this stuff up so.
And you so-called white people are the biblical Edomites, the wicked whom the earth has been given into the hands of in Job 9 verse 24, and the border of wickedness in Malachi 1 verse 4. You were created to be the wicked and devil or deceiver that the Bible speaks of. Hence why under your rulership the earth is suffering. Hey, Proverbs 29 verse 2. When the wicked are in authority, when the wicked are in rulership, the people mourn, but when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice.
People who read this stuff can see what I'm talking about, because it's easy for us to say, well, it doesn't affect me, it doesn't bother me, I don't see that in my world, I really can't believe this. I kind of felt that way. I'm insulated from that. I've moved away from that kind of stuff. Some of you that live in rural America or small towns, you don't see this stuff much, okay? But here, the thing, it is going to affect you if it continues to grow. Maybe I'll remember to address that in a letter. He says, okay, you evil piece of shit. Jesus was a black man. I don't know where. I know that's a popular thought amongst some. Okay. Here's another.
And he shouldn't be being disingenuous. He said, I know Jesus being called a so-called black man is popular among, some groups, like he doesn't know what's going on. You Christians know who the Hebrew Israelites are. And, this truth is a cause for a lot of these tensions rising out here. As it says in Matthew 24, verse 14, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. With the prophets preaching this word, out on the highways and byways, as well as putting up video epistles like this, and the true prophets of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, the men of GMS or Great Millstone, as well as the brothers coming in the spirit of GMS preaching this word. Hey, it's bringing these prophecies to their fulfillment. Hence why nation is beginning to rise against nation, wars and rumors of wars, earthquakes in diverse places, etc., etc. And you Edomites, the son of perdition, the man of sin, being revealed out here. And not just Jake, but a lot of these different nations are waking up to the fact that you're the root cause of the problems on the face of the earth. And you Edomites don't like that pressure is being put on you. Which brings me to Obadiah chapter 1. I'm going to start at verse 1. And this whole book is dedicated to the judgment and the downfall of you Edomites. As the header reads, Edom will be humbled. The vision of Obadiah. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh concerning Edom. We have heard a rumor from Yahweh, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise ye, and let us rise up against her in battle. And you're seeing a lot of these heathen nations do that right now economically, with the BRICS moving from the west towards the east. But eventually it's going to go from, throwing words at each other to throwing lead at each other. But here's the main point I wanted to get to. Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen. Thou art greatly despised. On the one hand, you Edomites actually being the global minority, and on the other hand, your reputation being made small amongst the nations, especially you Edomites in the West, America. You've got a bunch of people calling you out, calling you colonizers, calling you thieves, thugs. You overthrow sovereign nations so you can set up puppets to grate that nation of their resources, etc., etc. And you got a lot of these African nations kicking out a lot of you Europeans. And then over here in America, hey, we've got videos like this where you got Edomites spooking over a racial hatred growing. Again, you Edomites feel the heat out here.
You white MFers are so damn evil. Black people have been in this country for centuries. If they wanted to start a race war, wouldn't they have done it by now? Black people mind their business. And here is a fake-ass Christian, meaning me. I can't wait until Jesus cracks the skies and you racist MF see he was always a black man.
Let's rewind that a little bit.
If they wanted to start a race war, wouldn't they have done it by now? Black people mind their business. And here is a fake-ass Christian, meaning me. I can't wait until Jesus cracks the skies and you racist MF see he was always a black man. Do you?
And they're saying, Jesus and black and all that. But those that are in the know what those Jakes were trying to say. Speaking of Yahawashi, who the true name of the Son of the Most High, not so-called Jesus, who does have the appearance of a so-called black man. And the Israelites, are so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. And best believe that this Edomite has heard this before. But, let's go to Revelation chapter 1. I'm going to read verse 14. I'll start at verse 13. And in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, one like the Son of Man, speaking of Yahawashi, clothed with a garment down to the foot, and girt about the paps with the golden girdle. Yahawashi having a golden, girdle or a plate on his chest with a garment down to the foot. Verse 14. And, we have this image out on the block of, Yahawashi with the green garment down to the foot and that golden girdle. But here's the kicker. His head and his hairs, meaning, his facial hair and the hair on his head, were white like wool. And who has a woolly texture to their hair? As white as snow. And his eyes were as a flame of fire. And his feet like unto fine brass, which brass is a derivative of what? Brown, as if they burned in a furnace. And if, you go Google search burnt brass or burnt copper, it's a real dark brown color. So Yahawashi has the appearance of a so-called dark-skinned Negro with a white woolly beard and afro, and his voice as the sound of many waters, that great and powerful voice, which, the so-called Negro is known for having. Just look at Barry White. But Yahawashi's voice is going to be on a whole different level. So the first part of that comment that Edomite read, I can't wait till you see that Jesus is black when he cracks those clouds. This is Isaiah chapter 63. I'm going to start at verse 1. And the header reads, God's vengeance on the nations, the heathen nations. Who is this that cometh from Edom with dyed garments from Basra? And Basra was an ancient chief city of the Edomites. So modern day spiritual Basra would be the United States of America. This that is glorious in his apparel, that garment down to the foot with that golden girdle about the paps, traveling in the greatness of his strength, returning in that cloud or that chariot, which people ignorantly refer to as so-called UFOs, which it's also referred to as the white horse, which, in the scriptures, horses represent power, or that great mountain that the prophet Esdras saw in 2nd Esdras chapter 13. I that speak in righteousness, mighty to save. And, Yahawashi means, he Savior. And who's he coming to save? His people. Matthew 1:21. Wherefore art thou red in thine apparel, and thy garments like him that treadeth in the wine fat? And if you see those people that stomp on grapes, they get that grape juice all over them. So if they were wearing, a white color and were doing that, they look like they just got back from a murder scene. So this is symbolic of the great death and destruction Yahushua is coming to bring. And in the first verse, who did it say he was coming to visit specifically? Who is this that cometh from Edom with dyed garments from Basra? I have trodden the winepress alone, and of the people there was none with me. For I will tread them in mine anger, and trample them in my fury, and their blood shall be sprinkled upon my garments, and I will stain all my raiment. For the day of vengeance is in mine heart, and the year of my redeemed is come. And seeing all these biblical prophecies in the process of taking place, or taking place as we speak. And this Edomite, everything in his video lining up with biblical prophecy. Hey, that shows that the day of vengeance and the year of the redeemed of Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai is close. Very close.
You see the kind of, separation from reality that we're dealing here, and that is a danger, folks. When people...
And this Edomite, and a lot of you Edomites have a complete separation from reality because, he's a Christian, but hasn't gone into one verse in the Bible yet. In this video, I've gone into several verses lining up what those jakes are trying to say. So really, who has a separation from reality out here? And a neurosis, as he's going to say. Skin color doesn't matter. Jesus loves everybody.
Cross into that, from neurosis to psychosis. That's a danger. Here's another one. This racist MF, me, is actually quoting scriptures that black people wrote to start a race war. White people, listen guys, white people are the offspring of fallen angels. Did you know?
Which, that Jake, whoever that Jake is, you just need to watch some more GMS videos and just, put the Bible down, because there's no such thing as fallen angels, and Edomites aren't the descendant of fallen angels, but they are the descendants of Esau, the wicked of the scriptures. But that's all I'm going to play in that clip. But hey, with each passing day, biblical prophecy continues to speak louder and louder. And, just from the content of those comments he read, it was a so-called black person that read it. So Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai is rousing up the spirit of Judah out here, which goes to Genesis chapter 48. I'm going to read 49. I'm going to read verses 8-9. Judah, the so-called Negro, so-called African American, so-called black, nigger. Thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise. Judah is the head tribe, and all the other nations follow after Judah. Look at from hip-hop, how Judah dresses and Judah's lingo. You see the other tribes follow suit. Hell, you see these fucking Edomites and other nations follow suit. Thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise. Thy hand shall be in the neck of thine enemies. In a lot of these different political positions in government, you got Jake up in there. And eventually it's going to get to the point to where Jake is going to literally put his neck on you heathens. I did a video a couple of months ago where a Jake who was in the military, he was at a gas station and he saw an Edomite with some kind of something to let him know he was in the military. So the Jake told the Edomite, "Thank you for your service." And the Edomite told him, "Oh, I didn't know they let people like you still in the service." And Jake literally grabbed him by his neck, and the Edomite said, "Please don't hurt me." So, hey, that spirit is getting roused up out here. Thy father's children shall bow down before thee. Verse 9, Judah is a lion's whelp. From the prey, my son, thou art gone up. He stooped down, he couched as a lion, and as an old lion, who shall rouse him up? And Jake has been that old lion for a long time. You've had all these different instances where Edomites put down Jake, and Jake will riot for a little bit, but Jake is still comfortable. Esau might make a statue or a mural to the Jake. Jake's getting, government assistance from Esau. Esau, to an extent, allows Jake to get up in the system and make a living. Judah's comfortable. But as this country continues to collapse and these tensions continue to build up, there's going to come a point to where Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, is going to rouse up that old lion into that lion's whelp. And as the elder brother Yachanan down here brings up all the time, whenever you see Judites get in a fight, like at a restaurant or whatever, they tear the whole place up. That lion-like, energy. And hey, it's going to be directed towards you Edomites. But there will be race wars according to the scriptures, and no amount of holding hands or divesting or anything like that is going to change that fact. This is 2 Esdras chapter 15 in the Apocrypha. I'm going to read verses 14 to 15. Woe or destruction to the world and them that dwell therein. For the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another. And that can go into many things. One nation or race standing up and fighting against another. Class warfare, gender warfare, civil unrest, with the average everyday person going against the government, which is going to happen as well, taking place, etc., etc. Hey, citizen against non-citizen or illegal. And one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. And that modern day sword, especially in America, is what? The gun. But now I'm going to close out in Isaiah chapter 13, verse 14. And in that day, and it shall be as the chaste roe, speaking of you Edomites, because while all these nations are going to be fighting against each other, hey, you Edomites are going to be a big ass target out here, because you fucked over every nation out here. So you got a lot of, blood on your hands. And as a sheep that no man taketh up, they shall every man turn to his own people, and flee every one into his own land. People getting tribal and going back to their nations when society collapses. Familiarity. Everyone that is found shall be thrust through, and everyone that is joined unto them shall fall by the sword. And you people out here, Israelites, Edomites, and other heathens included, your Hodge twins, your Anton Daniels, your Jesse Lee Petersons, whoever that still want to be in that we are the world spirit. When this thing goes down, as it said, you shall be thrust through and fall by the sword. Hey, doesn't matter how good of a friend you were, if you're married to a person of another nation, you have children, etc., etc. Hey, it's going down. Verse 16. Their children also shall be dashed to pieces before their eyes. Children getting deleted. Hey, you Judite women, you so-called black women that have those tear children. Hey, get ready to see them used as target practice. Their houses shall be spoiled, home invasions, and their wives ravished. Women getting raped out here. So hey, this is the nastiness of the scriptures that a lot of you Christians like to avoid. But hey, it's a part of biblical prophecy. And as it said in Ecclesiastes chapter 3, there's a time and a season for everything. A time to love and a time to hate. A time to heal and a time to kill. A time to come together and a time to separate. And as the title of this video said, racial hatred rising, that should let you know exactly what times you're living in. So that's it with this video. And with this video, I hope you sincere Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong. We are almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babol, Kwam Yasharallah, and until next time, Shalom.